So let's talk about graphing some of these things. So we're going to start off. There are kind of two families of graphs that happen with our exponentials. We have ones where our bases are larger than 1 and ones where our bases are smaller than 1. Again, keep in mind they all have to be positive. So we're going to start off with 2 to the x. Now, I am going to go to our whiteboard here in just a second, and I'm going to talk about how we came up with this table, okay? Because some of these have a couple of rules that you may or may not recall or be as familiar with, and then we'll talk about the graphic stuff. So we're going to talk about 2 to the x, okay? So I'm going to make myself that same little table. Now, for something like this, this is 2 to the first, and so anything to the first power is just itself. This would be 2 squared, which would be 4, and 2 cubed, which would be 8. Now, for 0, there's a rule. Anything to the 0 power, so long as it's not 0 itself, is 1. Okay, so that means this is going to be 1. And then we have another rule that says anything to the negative power goes into a fraction. Okay, notice that the negative is removed when it goes underneath. So for something like 2 to the negative first, or 2 to the negative 1, that's going to be 1 over 2 to the first, which is 1/2. And then if I have something like negative 2, that's going to be 1 over 2 squared, which is 1/4. And then I have 1/8. Okay, so now if we were going to graph these, so I'm going to come over here to my board tab. I am going to use this as origin right here. We had 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 8, and then at -1 we were at 1/2, -2 we were at 1/4, and then an 8. Okay, so we can kind of see this arched graph. Okay, so this is going to arch up and go that way. This is actually going to drag and have a long tail, and this is a tapering tail because if you notice over here on these, we're going 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. Each time these are cutting in half. And as long as I'm cutting in half, there's always going to be a little bit of something there. It's never going to get to 0, and it's never going to go negative. So therefore, this is just going to be a taper tail that does get close to our x-axis. Okay, so now let's talk about our other one. So this was our bases of that were bigger than 1. And granted, it's a 2 here. They could change that out to be a 3, a 2.5, anything that was bigger than 1. And it would have that same basic shape. Now, let's talk about something where we're using, say, 1/2 to the x. And again, we'll use our same little table. And again, we know anything to the 0 power is 1, so we have that. Anything to the first power is itself, so that's going to be 1/2. 1/2 squared, which is going to be 1/2 times 1/2, is going to be 1/4. 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, it's going to be an 8. Now let's talk about these negative ones. So 1/2 to the -1, following our pattern. Okay. Now 1/2 to the first, we know is just 1 over 1/2. Now, remember that a fraction bar is division. So this is 1 divided by 1/2. When you divide by a fraction, it's keep, flip, change to multiplication, and that's going to be 2. Okay. We've established that 1/2 to the -2 is going to be 1 over 1/2 squared, which is 1 over 1/4, following our same operation stuff here. That's going to be 1 divided by 1/4, which is going to be 1 times 4 over 1, which is 4. So that's going to be 4. And by similar pattern, we're going to get 8. Okay. So now looking at that into our graph picture, again, we have 0, 1. -1 was at 2. -2 was at 4. -3 was at 8. And then we had the 1/2, 1/4, and then 1/8. So we're going to have that same shape. Yes, sir. Only this one is going to taper tail kind of over off to the right hand side. Okay, so very, very similar, similar shapes. These are just reversed. Now again, we were using 1/2 here. If they used another one, we still have the same basic kind of downward to the right shape, but it might be a little narrower. It might be a little further out, stuff like that.